Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Paul, and in this GAMEWORKS video we're going to be discussing the Radeon RX 500 series. That's right, we actually have some news, we'll get into that in just a second, as well as the GTX 1080 Ti and some changes to the Pascal GPUs. Nvidia are going to be ramping up clock speeds for subsequent GTX 1080s, 1070s and also 1060s, but we'll get into that in just a moment. Now, full disclosure, I did actually record the 1080 stuff and Pascal stuff first, and I was just about to export the video, and then stuff on the RX 500 appeared, so I'm kind of recording this in reverse order. So if something doesn't make sense or I kind of contradict myself slightly later on, then you'll understand why. But, you know, all the information with the 1080 Ti is accurate, but I do mention a few things about AMD. Anyway, with that said, let's begin. So, according to the website heist.de, which is obviously a German website, AMD are planning to unveil the RX 500 series in April. Yes, I know that RX Vega is going to be a thing. We'll get into that in just a second. On 4th of April, we're going to see the RX 580 and 570, available for sale as well, by the way. And then a week later, which is April 11th, we're going to see the 560 and 550. Now, all of these cards are most likely a rebrand from what we can see of the RX 400 series. Now, this is really important to know because while it is a rebrand, there are small, subtle differences with the GPUs, primarily a clock speed bump. For example, we'll see the 580 have a moderate bump of 74 MHz, whereas the 570 gets a moderate bump of 38 MHz. Not exactly going to set the world ablaze, but technically will slightly skew results. Now, my personal feeling is that some vendors will obviously push it a lot higher, depending on if they're going with reference designs or not. But obviously, we'll just have to wait and see. The 560 is going to be a rebrand of the 460, but with 1024 stream processors. However, that's been unconfirmed. Some folks are saying, however, that the 560 may be clocked at 1287 MHz, which is quite a significant jump. 87 MHz over the RX 460 we currently have. But according to Heist, there is one model which is likely equipped with Polaris 12. Polaris 12 is the very low-end GPU silicon, which is just as mysterious as Vega 11, really. We don't know that much about it. For those who don't know, Vega 11 is going to be the lower-end card of the Vega lineup, which kind of makes things even more confusing. We'll get into that in just a second. Vega is not going to be released in April. I want to stress that. We will not be seeing Vega in April, which appears that Vega is going to be released in May. So basically we're going to get the rebrands in April and Vega a month or so later on. This kind of makes me wonder what the hell Vega 11 is. Vega 11, Vega 10 are not rebrands. They are completely different architectures, which kind of makes me scratch my head. It may be that the 580 series and below are going to be cheaper even than the current 400 series we have now. So in other words, AMD will cut the price. Vega 10, rather the Vega 11, will be the equivalent of the 590, and we'll see Vega 10 the equivalent of like the Furies. But we just don't know. There's just not enough information. And yes, I know that sucks, but unfortunately that's just the breaks at the moment. The GTX 1080 Ti is not a surprise for it to be arriving at all. We knew it was going to happen, we just didn't, of course, have any idea what the specifications of the GPU was going to be, and we didn't know if it was going to be cut down from the Titan X, and most people thought that that was going to be the case. Nvidia historically have decided, hey, we're going to cull some CUDA cores, we're going to drop the amount of VRAM, bandwidth, whatever, and typically this means that the GPU doesn't perform quite as well as the Titan, but historically the price has been a lot tastier. So many folks were expecting, let's say, the CUDA core number to take a massive dive. We expected perhaps, you know, the low 3000 mark, but that's not the case. We have the same number of CUDA cores, 3584. The base clock we're not quite sure about, but the boost clock is actually slightly faster, 1.53 for the Titan X compared to 1.58 for the Ti. The memory bandwidth is slightly higher, all of 4 GB per second, and the main difference between them, the only thing really the Ti is lower with, is the amount of RAM. It has 11 GB of GDDR5X, which is 1 GB smaller than the, of course, Titan X, which is not that big of a deal, really, considering the price point. The price point is $699 US. Yes, that's a lot of money, without a doubt. It's about 60% less, however, than the Titan X, which is $1,200 US. And this price actually is the entry-level price of when the GTX 1080 was first launched. Now, it's got to be said, of course, that this card is an absolute monster. If you have a 1440p display or below, there's a very good chance that you're probably not really going to need this card. This is ready for 4K gaming. Memory bandwidth is really required at this, and so is just absolute ridiculous amounts of GPU performance. So, Nvidia have undoubtedly taken advantage of the fact that we still don't have a release date for Vega. I did wax lyrically on that yesterday. I was really disappointed that we didn't get more insight for the product launch, and quite a few people have said that the Capsation event was a bit disappointing. I don't necessarily think it was super disappointing, but I think we did expect a bit more. So I wouldn't say it was disappointing, but I don't also think it was impressive. It was kind of like, you know, a confirmation of what we already knew and a unspectacular reveal of a name. Nvidia have definitely taken advantage of this and have confirmed that the card is going to be available on March the 10th. There's no UK pricing yet. Just wait, this video is going to be outdated in 1 hour's time. And we should see review samples start shipping soon. Now, the real beauty of this, however, is it doesn't just affect the 1080 Ti. There are going to be trickle-down effects. Unfortunately, we only have US pricing here, so if you're from, you know, Canada or Germany or, well, from Great Britain, sorry, out of luck. But, of course, retailers will start cutting prices anyway. So that means that the Titan X is still going to be retaining its ludicrous price tag. I say ludicrous, it's not really that expensive considering what you're getting, I guess. But the 1080 is going to cut down to $499, whereas the 1070, $379, and the 1060, assuming you're getting the 6GB RAM version, at $249 to be technical. Even better, Nvidia are taking advantage of faster RAM. So basically, as you probably are aware, as you become, I guess the technical term is, better at producing memory, as now we're, you know, very much in the phase of GDDR5X becoming quite mature, faster RAM speeds are starting to become quite commonplace. With that said, we will start seeing, at least, manufacturers shipping both the 1080 and the 1070 with faster memory modules. This, of course, means that in essence, we're going to see much faster memory bandwidth across those GPUs. I'm not quite sure how that's going to affect the cards in terms of raw performance, but even the 1070, for example, is going to have 9 Gbps chips, which is really nice. And the 11 Gbps GDDR5 models are going to be found in the 1080, but obviously it has that narrower bus. I can't really say too much badness about this. It's actually rather nice. And quite frankly speaking, well, quite honestly, it just crushes the expectations of what I really had for the 1080 Ti. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I didn't think it was going to be like a piece of crap. I just didn't think that Nvidia were going to be so generous in the number of CUDA cores. Now, according to Nvidia, it does overclock to about 2 gigahertz, excuse me, I can't speak suddenly. That's not that impressive, because the 1060 and other cards can certainly overclock rather well. For example, we had the 1070 Gaming X from MSI, and it overclocked like a demon, so it's not that big of a deal. It does, of course, depend on the, you know, silicon lottery and all that stuff, but this GPU, to put it into perspective, is 35% faster than the 1080, and the 1080 is no slouch. We are currently taking a look at the 1080, and it's ridiculous. This card is going to be absolutely wonderful, and I'm sure, and without a question, this card is also going to prompt many to go SLI. And I think one of the hot rigs, at least for the next several months, is going to be 2 1080 Tis with a Ryzen 7 1800X or a 1700X, and you've got so much computing power that frankly VR is going to be no issue. 4K is just going to be like silky smooth. Unfortunately, your bank balance is going to be slightly pillaged. One more thing that I kind of wanted to tackle. If you know where that's from, one more thing. Come on, everyone, comment. You know it. Someone knows that famous quote from a cartoon. That's all I'm going to say. Anyway, Nvidia Flex Viscosity, and I'm pretty impressed I managed to say that first time, benchmark has shown double the performance gains with asynchronous compute in DirectX 12. Now, as far as I can understand, this is specifically for Pascal GPU, so if you have Maxwell or older, sorry. But basically, this seems to enhance the GPU performance of DirectX 12 workloads on asynchronous compute. From what I understand so far, there's no mention on Vulkan or how, you know, this is going to start impacting other games. I would like to start seeing, you know, some real benchmarks of this, and naturally that's going to require a couple of months. But it's good that Nvidia are doing this. Like, I'm happy, and hopefully this will obviously prompt AMD to be quite aggressive. And really, that's kind of where I'm going with this. Like, this video, I'm happy that Nvidia are being very aggressive with the Ti, because I think if AMD were not looking impressive with Vega, Nvidia might have been a bit stingier with the specifications of the Ti. So that's good. So, in essence, what are you going to do with this, AMD? Like, okay, maybe AMD were waiting for Nvidia to kind of show its hand, but we all know that there's possibly going to be a Pascal refresh, although that's not confirmed by any means. There are rumours, and we all know that Volta is eventually going to be a thing. Oh, and if you can hear clicking in the background, it's because Amy is currently playing Horizon Zero Dawn on the PS4 as she's preparing for a First Impressions review. Unfortunately, as regular viewers know, I've recently moved and my internet is literally awful. And for some reason, unbeknownst to me, it is completely gone out. I think it might be the weather. So I'm having a new line installed, coincidentally on my birthday. No, it wasn't planned, it just happened to be random. So content is going to be a bit smoother for us over the next couple of weeks. Good news, everyone, as well, and this is slightly off topic. We have the case, the cooler, and a whole bunch of lighting strips and fans that have arrived, which is good for Ryzen. And I'm currently awaiting the order confirmation for Ryzen, because as regular viewers know, we are actually ordering that out of our own funds, whereas some of the other stuff we've received is review samples, and of course we will disclose what is review samples and not. Anyway, I think that's just about it for this video. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. I shall see you soon with any luck. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.